Hi guys, this is Meenu. Welcome back to my channel Storytale. So I've read a lot of books in 2022, which I think is more than I've ever read. I do not know how I did that, but I did that. And there are a lot of new authors that I discovered too. They are not basically new authors, they are just new to me. And there are one or two new authors also in this list. Today I'm going to be listing my favorite authors of 2022. There are of course many other books that I've liked and disliked or whatever, but these are the four authors that actually stood out for me. Their writing style, the way they write their characters, the way they write emotions, and everything they have done in their books is just phenomenal, and that is why they have become my favorite authors of 2022. The first author that I want to talk about, and I'm really excited to talk about her, is Colleen Hoover. I loved her books. I loved them. I did read one of her book, which was Lala, last year if I'm not wrong, and it was okay for me. It was okay, it was not bad. But this year when I read so many of her books, especially November 9, Reminders of Him, Ugly Love is one of my favorites. I love her for that. I loved these three books that I've read of her, and I absolutely fell in love with her. None of her books actually disappointed me. Lala, I am gonna say, is like the bottom of the list. Like, it was not a bad book, but it was not as great as the other three ones. And Ugly Love is like at the top. November 9 is the second, and third is Reminders of Him. I'm gonna read, of course, more of her books later. Like, there's also, I think, Variety, which I do want to give a try, and there's also, of course, one of her most famous book, which is It Ends With Us, and there's also a sequel, which is It Starts With Us. So of course I'm gonna read those books too. But I absolutely fell in love with her writing. She writes emotional scenes so well, and especially her characters. Each and every character somehow feel different to me, and I am in love with all the characters. I really love their romances. There are little twists in each of her book, which I do enjoy. Everything about her books I actually love. I do not have any complaints from her. She writes sex scenes very well, especially in Ugly Love. I think it was done very well, like very nicely it's done. I loved it. I loved all the emotional scenes. I'm pretty sure I have cried in three of her books, like November 9, Ugly Love, and Reminders of Him. I cried in all of three books. And there also this thing about Colleen Hoover, that she makes you question everything. Like, you questions your integrity and the choices that you make, and what choice that you should make, what is right, what is kind, and everything. So I love that dilemma. I really love that about her books, and I really love all the emotions that it makes me feel. So that is why I'm in love with Colleen Hoover. I love her. I just love her books. I know that I discovered her last year, but I do not feel like I've really discovered her last year with the book Lala. That is why she's all this new for me. Like, it's like I'm reading her books from a new perspective. Like, it has been discovered for me. That is why I've put her in this list, because for me this has come out as the most shining author for me this year. The second author that I want to talk about is Penelope Douglas. I loved her books. I just fell in love with her. Punk 57, I loved it. I'm not going to say I hated it. It was very engaging. I finished it in, I think, one sitting or maybe two sitting. It was very engaging. Yes, there are a little bit problems with the characters. There are a little bit problems with certain scenes. But other than that, it was actually a very good book. It was actually interesting. I loved it. And there's a Birthday Girl. I loved Birthday Girl. It was a little bit uncomfortable for me because, you know, the girl and the other guy being the boyfriend's father. That was a little bit problem for me. That took a lot of me to actually adapt, but I have now adapted to it very well, and I have realized what a beautiful book or gem Birthday Girl was. It was such a nice book, and it's not just the book or the story. I really love the writing style of Penelope Douglas. I just love it. She writes sex scenes very nicely. I really love it all, and it's not very badly written. And even the character, she is not someone who writes smart or something. She is writing book with the characters, so she writes her characters very well. She arranges them very well. So I really love Penelope Douglas, and I do want to read more of her books next year. I might start with there's this popular series which I'm forgetting, maybe the Devil's Night series. I think I did start that book a long time ago, but I'm not sure I finished it or not. But I'm gonna be finishing it next year. I'm gonna try to read it again. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love it this time. But I'm really in love with Penelope Douglas now. I do love her books. So I know I've just read two, and that is too soon. But I do not know why. I think I'm going to love her future books too. Let's see. The next author that I'm going to talk about is Sabaa Tahir. I love Sabaa Tahir. I do not know if you have read her series Amber in the Ashes. I'm pretty sure you have. It is one of the popular series. It is the fantasy that is done really well. If you have not read that series, go and check it out right now. It is such a beautiful one. It has this very nice fantasy book written, and I loved it. It does give me a feel of Alif Laila, to be honest. I do love it. I mean, everything about that series is great. The ending, the start, everything that ties up, especially Helena. I love her. But the book that I read this year, which I knew establishes Sabaa Tahir as one of my favorite, is All My Rage. She did fantasy so well, so I was not expecting much when she got into contemporary, but man, I was wrong. She was so good in that book. There are two main characters in this book, and the grief that this book talks about, each and small hint that it gives about the ending, the mistreatment of the girl that was happening. It had a little bit of hints, which if you are smart, you'll get to know. I did not get to know that. So there was so much of like the grief, about the talk about the grief, the people, they were so emotional. It makes you cry. It just tugs at your heart, and everything. This book was just wholesome, and it was written so well. And that is when it was established for me that I loved Sabaa Tahir, and I love all of her books. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be reading her future book, whatever the book may be. The next author that I want to talk about is a brand new author. She has come up this year with this debut novel, which is Kekai. Kekai has her ups and downs in this book. It has a lot of things which will make people angry. I know it's gonna offend a lot of people if people have read that much in India, to be honest. I'm pretty sure in India many people have read it. I'm not gonna say that not, but I think the people who is gonna be offended, they have not actually read this one. So like there's not many negative comments about this one. People get offended over little things anyway. But Kekai is one of the masterpiece. Yes, it has its fault. I don't care, because the mythology or whatever that it has been derived for, it has been done very well. I loved it. The characters, the whole world building, it has such a beautiful world building. Like Kekai as a character was a character that you can actually aspire to. So I loved her too. There are also other characters which is done very well. The only aspect that I did not like was the Ravan character. To be honest, I think that could have been done very well, because Ravan is such an epic character. It could have been handled very well, but it was not actually. So that is one of the faults out there. But anyway, Vaishnavi Patel as an author, she did very well. The writing style, the whole world building and everything, the whole premise of the book, everything, the research that she has done, each and every source and materials that she has used, I think it was done very well. The book is written very well, and that is why she is one of my favorite authors this year. The last one is a special mention, which is Anmol Malik for me. I loved her book A Plain Story, because I was not expecting much from it. That is why this one stood out for me. It was funny, it was witty. I do loved it. I did not feel bored for even a second, the way I did with Everyone Has a Story by Savi Sharma. It was really bad. It was very bad. But anyway, Anmol Malik really did surprise me with A Plain Story, and I did feel for the characters. I did love that story. It was funny, it was witty, it was a very light-hearted book. It was nothing like, you do not have to put a lot of brain to it. It's just a rom-com, basically. Like, it's mostly a movie in a book, like a rom-com funny kind of a movie, a Netflix movie, or what is that, Hallmark movie. Not exactly Hallmark though, is it? Do not care, because Hallmarks are basically done around holidays, and this one is around wedding. But anyway, this was a very fun, light-hearted book which I actually enjoyed. I was not expecting much, so that is why it was such a big surprise for me. So that was my list for the favorite authors of 2022. Do you have any list? Do you have any favorite authors, or do you want me to try any new author, like any of your favorite author do you want me to read? Do let me know in the comments down below. And of course, I will see you next time. Have a great year ahead, and I wish you all the best.